We're back with Barry Oreck. The album is We Are Wood, and you just heard The Crabbit Wee Tailors of Forfar. Um, so one of the things I like about this album is that you're not just sort of presenting histories of problems, you're presenting a history of solutions in this song. So tell me about the tailors you speak of.
Well, I have a brother-in-law who is Glaswegian, very Scottish from Glasgow, and he's always making stuff. Anything you give him, like toilet paper rolls is one of his specialties, or those little pop tops from orange juice containers. He'll just take them and make them into a creature or a piece of paper. He's always folding it and creating origami things, and it's just a great artistic pursuit of his. And so we were on the phone one day, and I said, "Where does this come from? Like this background?" He said, "Oh well, we're the Crabbit We Tailors of Forfar." It's like, what? What does that mean? So his people, I guess, were tailors, and they came from a region of Scotland called Forfar in the Valley of Strathmore. And he, crabbit is a word like crabby, and he can definitely be that. And that's, a Scots thing, the Dour Scots. Um, and crabbit, though, I looked up, is more than crabby. It makes everyone around you crabby. So it's like contagious crabbiness. so, thinking about him and this idea of reusing and recycling, creating art out of what you might think is garbage. Um, he seemed like a perfect symbol of that. And the Scots in general are known as being frugal and thrifty, or you could call it cheap. But they like to make use of everything. And so I thought that was a kind of the perfect group to highlight what we need to do, that we just can't keep throwing everything away, and we need to reuse and repair.
Yeah, what are some of the solutions that you can come up with from speaking to someone who's been there before in reusing and remaking?
Yeah, to me, the answer is art. You don't know what's useful. I got a basement full of crap that that is it art or is it garbage? And so I'm not suggesting, hoarding everything to create with, but to see the world around us, this world of incredible abundance and stuff, and think about, how we can use it. In small ways. My wife makes beautiful quilts out of our old t-shirts, and it becomes a beautiful piece of art that reminds us of all those years of wearing those favorite t-shirts. And so why do you have to throw them out? Maybe they can become a wall hanging. Um, and so I just think it's a way of looking at the world that says, yeah, we can make stuff of things and figure out uses, whether they be practical uses or artistic uses, that we don't have to just keep tossing everything.
You mentioned a song called Snake Bones earlier. Um, you keep saying temperatures rising
Yeah,
in the song, and sort of it turns into almost this song about surviving in a world where every sort of temperature imaginable is rising,
right.
whether it is the literal temperature or the political temperature.
Exactly.
Um, how do you try to navigate around, without any of those snake bones to help?
Yeah. Um, Actually, one of the verses is temperatures rising. The other one's the tempers are rising. So as you said, to me, being if I were 20 instead of 70, um, I know I would feel really differently about the future. And the scariest part is that, in crisis, it appears at this moment we can't talk to each other. So the line goes temperatures rising, no compromising. And to me, that's the scary part because it's going to take some compromises. Um, and so the fact that dialogue is seeming so hardened and so difficult, and we're not even talking to each other, to me is the scariest part of the climate situation, as this song speaks about. But also everything else that compromise is almost like a dirty word, it seems like, in our politics. And you're thinking, things are gonna get worse in terms of climate and other conditions. How are we going to talk about it and solve things if we can't compromise? So you know, that that's not an answer or a solution. It's just, identifying a part of the problem.
Yeah, I feel as though offering a solution right now may be a bit of an overreach on anyone's part if they claim to have one.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I
How
can't
do
even, read the Times op-eds or, columnists in the New York or the Atlantic. This is what the Democrats should be doing, or this is what we're supposed to. It's like you really don't know. Like nobody knows.
Uh, I mean, if there's one thing that's comforting, it's that most serious people, most serious intellectuals seem to at least be agreeing on the fact that it's not sustainable. So, whether or not there's a solution in that, there's some, some positive I can draw that everyone is at least on a similar enough page that, where we're at the crossroads. So at least there's being thought put into what to do. I know I'm stretching for something,
Got to stretch for some positives these days.
but if you're not stretching, you're reaching nothing.
Right,
Um,
right, right. Yeah.
so how did a snake wind up becoming the symbol for this?
I felt, I think it was an image of like, how do we live on the planet? And snakes are survivors. They find their way through and around and underneath and over. So I think it was, it's a historic cultural symbol, with lots of meanings. I have a good friend, Steve Hall, who just wrote a book that's coming out about snakes called Slither. Um, and so they have such meaning in terms of um, how to live on the planet, how to live in some kind of harmonious way, and that compromise and finding solutions is a circuitous path. There's no straight lines. So I guess that's somehow metaphorically where the image came to me.
What do you feel is out of all of the problems you've mentioned on the album, you haven't mentioned out of the album, what's the one that makes you the most nervous?
Um, Problem. I think it is kind of what we were just talking about with snake bones, that there's just all of this problems there are layers and layers of problems: human displacement, climate, inequality, more basic things like figuring out how to use healthcare and make services available. And so, of all of those things, the fact that that we seem to be more separated, more tribal, that when the crisis comes, it seems less in our nature to work together these days than to go further into our tribes. And I guess that's what scares me, is that, I think I had an idea in the 60s and 70s, time of great change. I really believed that, people could come together in crisis and solve it. And now the idea that people coming together, as I said, just feels very distant. And I think that's the scariest thing to me, because there's going to be more immigrants, there's going to be more rising water. All of that is going to increase. Will it get us to finally come to terms with it and face it, or to keep going farther into tribalism? I don't know.
Well, let's hope we can learn something from snakes. At the very least, we can learn something from snakes and overrun Florida. Um,
Right.
that could help.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, Barry Orrick, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Well, it's been a pleasure, Trevor.